I'm dying. That's the bad news. The worst news is so are you. We are all dying. We are talking about the abstract notion that after birth we begin an adventurous, inexorable march to an inevitable and common end. The great mystery, of course, is that we never know when that end will occur. As a result, we never know when we have done something for the last time, or as I have titled this talk, we never know when we have had a last dance. In our life, there are many last dances. Last dances are sometimes a matter of choice, but often through age, circumstance, and health, a last dance is forced upon us. The origin of that phrase, for me, came in a very concrete manner. I was Wisconsin's representative to an organization of state leaders in the preparation of alcohol and drug abuse counselors. The United States Navy was hosting the organization at the Naval Training Center in San Diego. The meetings took place at the Admiral Kidd Officers Club. On a break, I stepped out onto a large balcony overlooking an outdoor dance floor. My colleague from Oklahoma, Lydia Norrie, joined me. She asked for my thoughts. I'm amused that I can only imagine the number of couples who danced on the floor below us during World War II, not knowing that when their husband shipped out, it might be their last dance. Lydia was crying quietly, and she said, "His name was Billy. He was the love of my life." Ralph Gibson, a great thinker about life and art and one of our finest fine art photographers, posits in his book, Self-Exposure, that life is made up of a very select, small number of decisions. In his 90 years of life, he identifies 7 decisions. These are seminal, life-changing decisions. For the purpose of my talk, they are each last dance decisions. There are many things that I will never do again, like jump out of an airplane or run a marathon. These are final, but not life-altering. For me, last dance decisions are when we commit ourselves, intellect, body, and if you choose soul, to a change of direction. Life changes, often radically, with each last dance. There are also always unintended consequences to a last dance. I will describe the 5 last dances of my life to this point and invite you to reflect on those of yours. My first last dance happened when I was 20 years old. I made the decision to relinquish my 4-year ROTC scholarship while at Ripon College. This was the ultimate separation from my father, a lieutenant colonel in the Army. To accomplish this, I claimed conscientious objector in the military, a nearly impossible feat. It also meant that I would need to pay for my last 2 years at Ripon on my own. While I continued to have a loving relationship with my dad, he actually admired my stance. It also meant that I would never again have any form of financial support from him. Entering my senior year, I had cobbled together a series of loans and professor assistantship and a job as a bartender and a bouncer in a stripper bar, but was short the money to finish the last semester of my senior year. I went to Dad and asked if he could help. It is illustrative that this conversation took place as he was driving out to a car dealership to pick up his new Thunderbird. He said, "No, you made a decision that has consequences, and this is one of them. You figure it out." And I did. My decision also set my life course of active support of liberal causes. My second last dance came about when I was 31. After a decade of using alcohol and drugs, I was beat. I knew that my options were suicide or a life without chemicals. With the help of countless good people, last month I celebrated 42 years of sobriety. Thank you. That decision in 1981 changed my life forever. To date, it was my last dance with what had been my best friend and my worst enemy. It also meant a change of careers, the end of a marriage, and the abandonment of every social contact that I had. My next last dance was very similar to Ryan's worship associate story. It was 1986 when I married Jerry. During the early years of my sobriety and an intense therapeutic year of alcohol drug abuse counselor training, I had addressed significant issues of my relationships with women that had become twisted and warped by my addictions. I said marriage vows that I meant from the bottom of my heart and committed to the love of my life. She has also been instrumental in the next two last dance decisions. I made the decision to go to graduate school when I was in my 40s. That decision was heavily motivated by Jerry. As I contemplated it, I received advice from many quarters. Many said that I would never earn a return on the investment at my advanced age of 41. I said to Jerry, I'll be nearly 45 years old when I get my master's degree. She countered with, well, if you're lucky, you'll be 45 either way. You can either be watching sports on TV or picking up a degree. That decision opened up an expansion of my career possibilities and increased my income that could never have been projected. It put me in a position for a career that included international travel and the opportunity to make a difference in patient safety. My fourth last dance was also instigated by Jerry. I was 5 years into my new career when she literally pushed me up against the wall and began rhythmically hitting my chest with her fist. You have got to get a hobby. You are so effing boring. All you talk about is that job. I had been the chief photographer for a daily newspaper when I was much younger, but had not taken a photograph in over 30 years. As a newspaper photojournalist, you are in and out of people's lives, often on the worst day of their lives. I'd always admired the work of photojournalists like Father Don Dahl, who engaged in long-term photojournalism projects. That decision to pick up a little hobby has resulted in a career that has taken me around the world, photographing situations of people who are marginalized by circumstance. It has included four shows in our gallery here at First Church. My most recent last dance was forced on me. In a dispute with my organization, they were wanting me to assist in developing projects that I felt were unethical and possibly illegal. But I worked for them. They paid out my contract. My formal work for pay life and that dance were ended. Jerry and I sat down and made a decision that we would try to find ways to give back with our rich blessings. I was able to do this through my photography, and she through volunteer work, often in healthcare. We had arrived at that point in our mid-60s when the societal supports expected us to die. In 1935, when Social Security was adopted, life expectancy for white men was 61 and white women 65. The current life expectancy for white men hovers at 76.4. It is projected that by the year 2060, it'll be 83.9 for white men and 87.3 for white women. Think about that for a minute. Statistically, we live more than 15 years longer than the support system was designed to address. We were expected to be born, be educated, be productive, retire, and die by our mid-60s when the old age support system kicks in. What do we do with us old people? And when does someone qualify as old? Unfortunately, there is a tendency to marginalize the elderly. When I retired, a good friend said, "It is easy once you get used to being unimportant." Others have talked about becoming invisible. We live in a society that worships youth and fears old age. There's a growth industry providing preventive Botox injections to 17-year-olds when they discover their first wrinkle. It makes me just shudder. Another industry has arisen in the last 20 years to provide elder housing for elder care. Assisted living facilities for the elderly saw a 35% increase from 2013 to 2020. For many families, this is the preferred solution to caring for elderly parents. In most cases, it keeps people clean and safe. And with varying levels of assistance provided, it liberates residents to enjoy their lives more fully. In his book, Being Mortal, Atul Gawande describes the tension between families' need to assure the safety of the older relative and that person's drive to remain autonomous and independent. We even call those people craving autonomy over safety feisty. Maybe some of you are feisty. In preparation for this sermon, I had the opportunity to read several books on successful aging. It'll surprise no one that there are several common themes that emerge. A good summary is provided by George Vaillant in his book, Aging Well, Surprising Guideposts to a Happier Life. None of these will be surprising. In one form or another, they're repurposed by many authors. Good people who happen to us at any age create an enjoyable old age. Forgiving old relationships makes us happy. A good marriage at age 50 predicted positive aging at 80, but low cholesterol levels at 50 did not. Alcohol abuse damages relationships. Learning to play in retirement is more important than retirement income. Younger friends make retirement joyful. It is all right to be ill as long as you don't feel sick. There you have it in 7 nutshells. I got to this point and thought I was pretty well done with this sermon, but then a good friend, David, suggested that I look at a recent work by Dr. Becca Levy, a professor of epidemiology and a professor of psychology, both at Yale University. Her book, Breaking the Age Code, is a transformative look at our participation in the aging process. Levy quotes psychiatrist Robert Butler in defining ageism as a process of systematic stereotyping or discrimination against people because they are old. There are 2 components to ageism: negative age stereotypes that lead to discrimination and allow the younger generation to see old people as different from themselves. Thus, they subtly cease to identify with their elders as human beings. A recent World Health Organization report concludes that people don't recognize the existence of institutional ageism because the rules, norms, and practices of the institution are long-standing, have been ritualized, and seem normal. Our First Church community makes a concerted effort to provide necessary supports for its members as they age. We are integrated into decision-making and social supports. We are looked to for our wisdom. It is our responsibility to take advantage of what is available. And perhaps as a faith community, we could do even more. I suspect in this room, there are people who are not very different from me. I'm a white, cisgendered, financially stable old man. My incredible privilege insulates me from many of the harms of societal discrimination based on age. Every discriminatory practice of ageism is exacerbated by the intersection of race, gender, identity, and income disparity. Levy posits that ageism exists on a governmental, societal, and individual level. It will be left to a younger generation to fight the long-term fight of ageism in government and society. That fight will need to be carried on well past my generation. But Levy has also done significant research on the impact of language and attitudes on aging. Her research supports a finding that there is a causal relationship between our personal awareness of and participation in ageist actions and the exacerbation of our personal aging and wellness. We create a self-fulfilling prophecy. Since reading her book, I was gobsmacked by my own ageist self-talk and humor. old fool, senior moment, brain fart were a part of my language. I became increasingly aware of this language among my contemporaries. What if Levy is right and these attitudes create a downward spiral of acting older, thinking older, being older? Levy provides a three-step method to bolster positive age beliefs: awareness, blame, and challenge. Awareness. Awareness of images, beliefs, and role models of aging. These includes our personal beliefs and the role models presented on TV, movies, and social media. Blame. Who is to blame for the continuation of these myths? Who profits? Would the language we use about age be sexist if it was about a woman? Racist if it was about a minority group? Challenge. Challenge through politics, social groups, and relationships. Challenge by also confronting myths about aging. Levy lists 14 false stereotypes and the facts that challenge and debunk their veracity. Among them, we are technologically challenged. We don't have sex. We are bad drivers. We don't contribute to society. We are fragile. All are false. And she provides the information to counter them. You only need to look to the people of this congregation to see immense contributions to our church and our community. None of this wisdom matters if I don't take action. Gosh, this sounds like it might be another one of those last dance turning points. It is. Here's what I'll do. I will push back and take action against ageism. As I'm aware, I will no longer use language that demeans my age. I will love my wife. I will increase my involvement in this and other communities. I will foster my relationships with my peers. I will be there for anyone wanting to get or remain sober. I will treat those younger than me that are a part of my life as if they are essential to my well-being. If you are a younger person hearing this and you are part of my life, I treasure you. I will create art. Karsh, the famous portrait photographer, said that he loves to shoot people who have lived long enough to get the face they deserve. I want that too. If you're over the age of 40 and would like a formal portrait taken, please contact me. I'll shoot it. I will work to structure my life to make these things achievable. Wow, my sixth last dance. May we all never fall into a rut of feeling trapped by circumstance, but remain open to responding to the pulse of life, each day being a dance. It may be a continuing dance, or we may decide it is a last dance, and we will change our lives again and again until we have a glorious last dance. May it be so. Mitakie Yoasin, all my relations.